Hello everyone, I'm joined by Painkiller today from Sign Esports to talk all things about the Esports World Cup. Are you okay, Painkiller? How are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
What can you tell me about Sign Esports? Because I think for a lot of people in the Overwatch space, it's kind of a name they've not really heard before. How did this sort of end up happening, and what's it been like early on?
So, Sign Esports came to us. They wanted to help sponsor us going to this Gen G facility in Seoul, Korea, and they're basically just helping us have this boot camp, getting these scrims in Korea. Really helpful for a team like us with a bunch of new players, never going to LAN before, and really helps us get the experience we need to get ready for EWC.
Is this the first time in Korea for yourself or for a lot of the team as well?
Yeah, I think this is everybody on the team's first time in Korea, so pretty excited.
What's the what's the experience so far? Recommend it?
Definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's one of the cities I think you have to travel to and visit.
Yeah, I only hear good things. I've never been, but everyone is always so positive.
Mhm.
Have you had a chance to do anything that isn't just eating? Have you been able to see any sites or any tourism stuff?
Yeah, we've done a couple tourism things. Like we're only here for a week. A lot of the other teams are here for 2 weeks. So a lot of our time here is mostly focused on scrimming and practicing and getting the most out of actually being here. But we still make time to do other things. Go explore the city and find different things to do. Just yesterday, we were just at a mall, and there's just a brilliant library that nowhere in America you could ever see, and just an amazing sight.
And the other big benefit is obviously you get all the scrim practice. You say you're at the Gen G facility right now. I think is it Twisted Minds who are also there with you as well.
Yeah, Twisted Minds are right below us.
Have you had a sneak peek then? Obviously, some useful information down there, maybe.
They set out traps. They leave the door open and their PC's on. We're not stepping in there. We're letting them be.
Respectful, yeah. And what's it been like? Because obviously you're not the only team. Every team in the West has gone out there, so you've got basically the full range of every team you might run into at the Esports World Cup. You have a chance to play them, maybe give or take. The South American team. What's it been like being in, I guess, like the ultimate scrim bubble?
Um, right now we get like middle of the pack scrims. So the best scrim that we've had so far was we did have one Falcons block, and I think it was pretty good for us. We took I think two maps, and a lot of the maps were pretty close. I think Falcons again is like they're definitely a strong team, but like this is their weakest they've ever been before. And when we scrimmed them, it really showed that like they're not the super team that they used to be, and they are beatable. I think after the scrim we had versus them.
I want to talk to you a bit about the meta, but before we get into that, I thought I'd touch on stage two and your sort of journey here as well, because many pundits, maybe not naming any names, maybe wrote off your chances of getting out of playoffs and thought it would be Space Station sitting in your seats right now. I think a lot of that maybe stemmed from the results against Extinction, where it felt closer than a lot of people would have expected. But what was the big difference for you between you have these dogfights with Extinction, and then you get into the crucial game against SSG, and you just roll them? So how do we go from A to B in that?
I think Extinction, I think it was just a bad match day for a lot of people. And it's just one of those things where you just kind of got to almost brush it under the rug if you're like players like us. Like, just got to look past it and focus on the next match. And for Space Station, I think the patch change did help us a decent amount, but we were still preparing for what they could do. Think of Kellen, you think of Monkey Specialist, so
Hmm.
maybe seeing some Ana comps with Monkey or Monkey Lucio Kiri, and we were prepping for that regardless. But it ended up just being an Orisa mirror for most of the maps, and we did use a lot of our flexibility. Kronik, he played three different hit scans across the three different maps. Luke going from Baptiste to Kiriko, and I think that's actually what helped us shine was Kronik and Luke being able to flex around between all those heroes.
And then when you get on a little bit later, obviously, then you get the lower bracket final against GK. Then obviously that one doesn't go very well for you guys at all. What do you think were the big problems or what were the difference makers in that series?
I think we didn't have much prep for Geekhead going in because the upper bracket match they just played versus Liquid, they were playing Malga comps the entire
Yes.
week in scrims. The entire week in scrims playing Malga comps, never switching off, and then versus Liquid they lost, and then they just gave up on the Malga comps, and I mean it paid out for them switching back to their regular trusted comps, and they were able to win. But I think it was a lack of prep for us and a little bit of an underperformance on the first couple maps. I think by the end we were on the third map on New Junk City. They kind of just had us in the hold, and I don't think we were getting out of that one. But I think they just really showed up on match day as well. They're all good players.
Yeah, that turnaround from their sort of upper bracket final to the lower bracket final and the grand final was like a real 180 for them. With you guys being on OPR as well for this tournament, does this mean we should expect a pretty similar meta to what we saw in the playoffs for NA and EMEA as well?
I would say it's a similar meta, but each region has different varieties, and that's kind of what's going on right now in the scrims is a clash between different regions. You're seeing, Europe played a lot of Symmetra in their playoffs, and they're still playing a lot of Symmetra now. And you think of NA, they're not really known for their Symmetra, and Team Liquid is one of the teams that is trying to play a lot of Sim. It's looking okay for them. It doesn't really seem like they'll be able to beat the European teams on their own Sim comps, but I think the level of play is at a really highly consistent level across all the teams. But I do think it's looking like the Europe region is the strongest right now, even compared to that of the Korean teams.
Oh, really? I've heard, yeah, because the hero that keeps coming up when I talk to people is Symmetra. It feels like Symmetra seems to be maybe quite a central part of this meta, which obviously we saw in EMEA, which is maybe par for the course with EMEA, but we didn't really see it in North America as much. Do you feel this puts maybe your region a bit on the back foot here if Symmetra ends up being so powerful?
I think it puts us on a little bit of a back foot, but again, it's like when Europe plays these sim comps, they're only playing these sim comps until it gets banned. So you think of them wanting to play sim, they're doing a lot of DPS protecting, which leaves the rest of their heroes vulnerable. I know Alcad and Twisted Minds, they pretty much switch between like Diva and Ram with their sim comps. Alcad leans a little more to the Diva with Ziad, but they strictly played those two tanks with the sim, and then they also play Lucio central comps. So I think that's also a weakness for them is they only play Lucio with these comps. So that's if you can figure out a way to play a strong comp with a Lucio ban on your side, it will really favor you in the Europe matches.
You talked a bit about how you were sort of in the middle of a pack scrim-wise as well. Have you had much chance to play against these EMEA teams then and have sort of, I guess, like a few iterations against the sim?
We actually have not scrimmed against any European teams. We right now we're scrimming a lot. We scrim Liquid, we scrim Geek, we scrimmed the one Falcon scrim. But besides that, the rest of our scrims are the China team. So like today we just played against Weibo, I think it's pronounced,
Yeah.
the Gushui Shy Leave Monk team, and they're still good. It's just I think they're also really hurt by the current meta with Monkey's not really that playable it seems, and you think of Gushui, think of Monkey, maybe Doomfist Specialist, and those are his two really strong heroes. And then outside of that, it seems a little weak for them, especially with them not really being able to play much Baptiste. You think of Monk as really strong on a player. He can play Kiri, but outside of that, if you're able to just ban Kiriko, it really hurts them as well.
Where do you see, because I think there are a couple of teams, I think not just Weibo, but all of the China teams are maybe suffering the same thing, where a lot of their heroes aren't as good in the meta, and then you add bans on top of that as well. Where do you see yourself and your team in terms of how bannable are you guys, or how much flexibility do you have to work around anything that's sort of thrown at you?
I think our team has pretty big amount of flexibility. I think I can pretty much play all the tanks that are in the meta right now. You think of Ramatra is a strong one, maybe a little bit of Diva, Hazard, and you see a little bit of Orisa, but most of the time Orisa only comes out if you're thinking of a Symmetra ban and a Ramatra ban, but most of the time two teams are not going to be banning Symmetra and Ramatra in the same map. So Orisa's kind of falling out, but I think between me, Luke, Kronik, and Rocket, we can kind of switch around almost any comp we need. And every team is playing Lucio and not really banning Lucio, so that also is a big benefit for us.
I have to ask about Kronik as well, because inevitably when your team comes up, Kronik is often the first name on a lot of people's lips. Very much renowned as the best Freya in North America, and I think not too many people would disagree with that. But now, obviously, the level's been raised, right? Even in your group, you've got Proud, you've got Quartz. Where would you sort of place Kronik in this sort of, I guess, world tier list, or how far can he go?
I say Kronik is the best Freya in our group. It's a little harder because the other teams aren't really playing too much Freya. I know T1, they'll probably play some Freya, but you think of Twisted Minds, they're not really going to play too much Freya. They're going to probably look to play a lot of the Cassidy and a lot of the Sojourn. If we can make the Freya comps work, I think that's a big bonus for us. I think Kronik can really shine on that hero. But again, even versus the Space Station game in the lower bracket playoffs, he played Cassidy, he played Sojourn, and he played Freya. So you might ban Freya, but he's still a monster on Sojourn and Cass.
Yeah, SSG, I guess, learned that lesson the hard way of there's no good matchup there for him. I want to ask about the event itself as well, because I think for maybe all of you, maybe there's some collegiate LAN experience in the mix there, but this will be the biggest LAN for a lot of you guys. Maybe I know, like, obviously Luke and Lep, probably the most experienced on the team, but how are you feeling about getting the chance to play on the sort of biggest stage so far in your career?
Yeah, this is only my second tournament being top 8 OWCS, so I was on Rad last stage, and then in 2024, I was not top 8 at all in OWCS, so going from the jump this year from, 6th place Rad last season into 3rd place going to the Esports World Cup, it's pretty exciting for someone like me, especially also for someone like Kronik who really shined this season, and it's also his first LAN. Same thing with Rocket and Luke and Lep's most recent LAN, but Rocket and Luke, they haven't made a LAN as well last year, and this year they're making the LAN, and I think everybody on the team is just really excited to go, and they really want to prove themselves to everybody.
What's the sort of balance level? Because I guess on one hand, there's sort of, I guess everyone talks about the pressure and the anxiety of playing on the stage, but how much of that is offset by also just the excitement to get that chance?
Yeah, I think looking at our group, I think looking from the outside, not many people are expecting us to get through. This year compared to last year, it's only top 2 in the group. So in our group, it's T1, it's Twisted Minds, us, Sign Esports, and the Gatos Guapos. So I think generally people are thinking, you have Twisted Minds and T1 getting out of the group, and people look at us and they say maybe it'll take a map off, but they don't think we'll get through. And we have that just underdog potential, just like we had in regular season. In NA, we beat Liquid 3-0, we beat SSG 3-1, went map 5 versus GK, and I think a lot of people still underestimate us, which I think is a real strength for us because we can really show up on match day.
I don't know if you remember last year, but especially because it's in Riyadh, the fan base leans a certain way in terms of wanting support for local teams. Obviously, Twisted Minds in your group. I feel like I have a clear memory last year of Toronto playing Twisted Minds. And the Twisted Minds fans made it very clear which team they wanted to win, trying to, I guess, get under the skin of the Toronto. Are you expecting the same sort of reception here when you guys play Twisted Minds?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely expecting the crowd to lean a certain way, and I can't really blame them. You look at a roster like Twisted Minds, especially in a meta like this, you have 5 players on all extremely comfortable picks, almost their best heroes in their region. You could say like top 1 in their region and those specific heroes, and how can you not cheer for them if you're a crowd and you're a fan for that team? So I don't really blame them for leaning that way and looking at it and wanting to give us a little bit of booze, but that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Sugar Free talking about it afterwards and saying one of the most satisfying things was you make the pop off play, you're beating Twisted Minds, and then you just hear the silence in the arena all of a sudden, and you sort of get you get the same kind of effect as a big cheer. The way the group's going to work, it's going to be GSL, which means essentially one way or another, if you win 2 games, you get out of groups. So I think most people probably have you ahead of Gatos Guapos as well. But it leaves then, if that goes to plan, you have to find a way to beat a Twisted Minds or a T1. How do you feel your team matches into those 2 respective teams?
I think it's going to be a little hard to beat Twisted Minds. I think right now they're looking like second or third best team in the world right now, with that Symmetra comp being so dominant. And there's a couple niche strategies or niche answers you could have to the sim comp, but overall, there's a reason that they're dominating everyone. There's a reason that their comp is so strong in the current patch. So I think looking at it from our perspective, we're going to try our best versus Twisted Minds. I think it's going to be a little harder for us with, we like to favor a lot of brawler comps, but they have the Symmetra, and that really kind of overpowers regular brawl when you add Symmetra in the mix. So looking at our T1 game, I think that's the main upset that we're going to be looking
Okay.
to break is beating that T1 team with Donghak and Zest and the rest of their players.
Yeah, I guess you just feel that matchup, at least compositionally, there's more places you can have a bit of an edge on them.
And I'm hoping I get a hazard mirror out of Donghak.
Yeah. Have you thought much beyond the groups? Obviously, the way the groups work out is you pair into Group B, which is the Liquid and Crazy Raccoon group. Have you thought much about that far ahead, or is it really just full focus on groups at the moment?
For us right now, we're just looking to try to get out of groups, try to get one of these upsets, and then we can look to prep later. I think if we do go against a team, like Liquid, definitely a winnable matchup for us in the current state of the game. Especially showing we beat them in the regular season. We lost them in the upper bracket, round one, but just happened. Got to go over that and go next. So if we do get out of groups and we are against a team like Liquid, we're going to definitely be looking to beat them.
Is there any team you're hoping to run into at this event if you do get out of groups? Any team you're really keen to play or beat, or anyone like that you've got your eye on?
I think I think the two teams in our group are two teams that are lower, not middle of the pack, but you think of their teams in their respective regions. They're not the highest seed, but they're the maybe second or third seed, and we really want to prove to everyone else that we can punch up to these other teams in different regions. We're not just doing one thing on match days in NA and we're getting a win. We really want to beat those two teams, T1 or Twisted Minds.
How would you determine, I guess, a successful event for you and the team? Because obviously, first big event for a lot of the team, coming in as third seed in the group. What would it take to get out of this, where you would sort of look back on it and be sort of content or happy, or and that was a successful step?
I think for us, looking into it, it's like we're not expected to make it out of groups, but if we are, it's like a fantastic event for us. We're making it out of groups, at least getting top 8 and our first LAN ever. But you look at a team like Nightmare last year at the Esports World Cup, they didn't make it out of groups, but it was still a successful event for them with the boot camp and getting a lot of experience out of it. And you look at the players on that roster, and they really shine for the rest of the year following that event. So we're looking to follow suit with that. If in the event we don't make it out of groups, we want to use the experience we get out of this boot camp in Gen G under Sign Esports, and we want to push forward and punch even back stronger next stage at Stockholm.
Yeah, and that's a really good comparison, I think, actually, because even though that team didn't do well from a standings point of view, I think everyone looked at that team and a lot of the players on that roster afterwards and were like, this feels like the start of something. This feels like we're on an upward trajectory here.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, if I had to get you to put your money where your mouth is, who's winning the Esports World Cup?
I think Crazy Raccoons definitely has a big shot, as always, but I think the team that people, not that they're not expecting them, but just you think of the international lands, you think of the Korean teams always in the grand finals. I think this year you're going to be looking at a European grand finals, either one team or two teams, depending on the bracket and if Twisted Minds make it out of the group. But I definitely think that either Alcatzai or Twisted Minds will make it to the finals.
That'd be good. EMEA have been waiting a while since a good LAN performance, so I hope you're right. I think it was Dallas last year was the last time EMEA had a good LAN, so it is overdue. So I hope you're right.
I think they have a really strong shot this year.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Painkiller. I appreciate your insight and your time. Best of luck to you and the team, and safe travels. And of course, enjoy the experience. First big event.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.